Welcome back. We're a couple of weeks into the NHL season and news happens fast, and you might miss it. Good thing we have Tradon to keep you updated on the biggest NHL storylines. T, it's all you.
All right, another week. If everyone's keeping up, I'm writing the TLDR power rankings for the NHL. We just posted, I think, yesterday. I'm trying to keep up with that so you can really get to know the teams, especially if you're really kind of a one team type of guy or gal. You can kind of get a good understanding of the entire NHL. But before I get into the news, we got to go through the fantasy race here. James, you beat me mostly because I didn't play Tristan Jarry yesterday.
Hey man, that's a win.
Tyler, you win.
Yeah.
And Alex and Eric both won as well. And I got to give a shout out to my fiance, Kylie. You won your first week. Congratulations.
Hey, good job, Kylie.
Looking at the standings, Alex, you're still 5-0. Tyler, 4-1 with Eric. James, you are 3-2, and I sit way back at 2-3. I'm not doing too well at fantasy hockey. I never have done very well at fantasy hockey.
You really haven't. It's weird.
I don't know why. I can't explain it. But moving on to the actual NHL stuff that I actually care a little bit more about. We're gonna start up in the North. We actually are two of our topics today are actually regarding the North Division, which admittedly is the division I'm probably focusing the most on, just because my team's in that division and I hear about it all the time. It's a little weird this year, I have to admit, because you're not playing outside your division. So when you're invested in a team, you really get to see just that team and the news around that. And it makes it a little tough to be connected with the other parts of the league. But I do my best. I'm going to start with the Canadiens. The Montreal Canadiens had a fiery start to the season. But as of late, they kind of have fallen back down to earth. I mean, they're 6-4-0. I know that sounds fantastic. They did have a fantastic win against the Toronto Maple Leafs on Saturday. They still sit with a 6.67 point percentage, but things just aren't clicking to the same, caliber. It seems like everything was kind of working for them. Like everything was turned into gold. Like every goal was going in. There were double digit shooting percentage, and now it's just, half that. So it's just not looking too good. So James, I ask you, you've been following this team. Was the beginning of the season a mirage, or are they as good as they, kind of started out? And is this just kind of a stumble in the road?
I think it's a stumble in the road. I think the main thing right now, there's two big inefficiencies with the Canadiens, and that's in scoring and in carry price. Their top 6 forwards have not been performing in the last 8 games.
No.
Phil Deneau is their number one centerman. The dude hasn't had a goal all season long. And Nick Suzuki, who's super promising, the first couple of games are like, oh my God, this guy's going to be great. Him and Kotkaniemi are going to be fantastic. He only has 1 goal on the season. And this is a team that started off super hot. They were leading the league in scoring. And I think teams have figured them out. They changed something in the offseason where they're more aggressive. Their forecheck was way more aggressive. And now all of a sudden, people are figuring them out, and they haven't made any changes to accommodate that. Changes need to occur. They got to figure out how to move the ball better or be less aggressive in the forecheck so people stop overplaying him. Secondly, Carey Price. He came into the season with lofty expectations. He was supposed to be the guy, again, because he has been for a long, long, long time. He hasn't performed. I mean, he performed decently. He hasn't 90% save percentage, 2.6 goal against average. That's decent numbers. It's not terrible numbers. It's also not the best. It's not what he's paid to do. He's paid to do better than that. But I have an explanation for that. I'm a huge Carey Price fan, so I don't know if my explanation will suffice, or if it's more of a fan-based thing. But I think Carey Price needs more ice time. This offseason, they brought in another goaltender in Jake Allen, and now they're splitting time. But if you look at Carey Price's statistics and over the last couple of years, his best numbers come when he plays in 80% of the games. Currently, he's only played in 60% of the games. He's the kind of guy that needs to be out there in the groove and be out there every single night. And I get, theoretically, you're supposed to more rest equals better play time because you're more rested. But that's just not how it works. Carey Price has always been the guy for the Canadiens, and the more he's out there, the better he feels, the better he plays. So, I mean, signing a really good backup goaltender is cool in most cases, not in this one. in this particular case with the Canadians, Carey Price needs to be out there all the time, at least 80% of the time, and then his numbers will show. But at the end of the day, I think changes will occur. The coaching staff is a good coaching staff. They went really far last year. Changes are going to occur. A different perspective will happen, and I think they're going to go back to what they're used to, what they started out this year as. I mean, to be honest, they're still second in the division with 20 points. They're not bad.
No, I would never say that they're bad. I think that there's just something going on. I think I agree with you completely that the top six just aren't playing. Kotkaniemi is not looking too sharp. Suzuki's not looking too sharp to me. Look, digging into this topic, I look back at Carey Price's career, and I don't think he's that good. I mean, I know that's crazy, but when you actually look at his stats, we want him to be good. Canadians in general want him to be good. Because that's all they like. Goalies used to be the biggest thing for Canada. I mean, you look at Martin Brodeur, you look at Patrick Wall. These guys are lauded after, and Canada loves their goaltenders. But look, I don't know of any other Canadian goaltender who's even close to a Vasilevsky or to a Gibson, to an extent, or insert name of goaltender here. I think Carey Price is not as great as we think he is, especially when relative to his dollar amount. That's my issue. This guy gets paid $10 million a year to stop a puck, and if you're saving at 90%, I have an issue with that. And to your point, James, I agree that he has played well when he's getting the bigger slug of games. There's no way I'm going to give him ice time if Jake Allen's going to save 93% of shots. There's just no way. So I agree with you. It's tough because he had a great game on Saturday. I have to give him credit. But it's tough. I think that he has a lot to live up to because there's a lot of pressure on him. To your point, he gets paid a lot, but he needs to be better. It just needs to be better. I mean, even if you're not getting the amount of games that you're wanting, you need to be better. But I agree with you. He maybe needs to get played more, but it's tough when you're not saving the puck enough. So it's tough. It's very tough. But hey, I agree with you. They're still going to make playoffs. Don't have to worry, Canadians fans. Moving on to the West really quick. The Western Division is a tight race, for that last spot. I mean, I think I talked in my preview. The top three spots are taken. Those guys aren't going to go anywhere. I know that Colorado's in fourth right now, but they've been off for 2 weeks. They haven't even played a game for 2 weeks. So I'm not really going to count that. I'm going to let everyone know that really you should be focusing on the point percentage when you look at the standings. I know the points are the main issue, but we may go down to a point where not all the games are going to be finished and you're going to be going on point percentage anyway. So it really is a better indication of how good a team is relative to the amount of games they played. With that said, 5 teams sit just above or just below 500 or in some kind of in the middle there. And it seems to me, and I had the inclination that there were only 3 teams that were going to fight for the one spot, but all the Canadian teams all the California teams are fighting for it. You have the Ducks that are at 500. So Tyler, I asked you to kind of look at this division. I mean, you 3 are the Pacific Division fans, and Eric as well. So I asked you, who in the division has surprised you, who's disappointed you, and who is going to take that last spot?
Yeah, so I think the biggest surprise right now is the Coyotes. I think they're right now, as we're talking here on Monday night, they're sitting third. Of course, as you mentioned, you kind of have to look at the games played overall. The Avalanche have not played as many games. They played 12 compared to 15, 16 as most of these other teams have played. Same with the Wild. And for me, the Wild are the biggest disappointments here, as they're sitting third to last in the division right now. But again, they've only played 11 games due to COVID. So you kind of have to take that in consideration. But for sure, I mean, seeing the Coyotes there in third place ahead of the Avalanche, we're almost a month into the season here. It's pretty crazy. So they've done way better than expected. I shit on them pretty hard in our preview. pretty much saying they had like zero scoring. The only player on that team worthy of any consideration was Darcy Kemper, who again has put up some great numbers. He's on my fantasy team, so I thank you, Darcy Kemper, for doing great. But yeah, the Coyotes overall, they've looked pretty solid. They might sneak in there as that 4th spot. But I think you still have to keep the Wild in consideration there. Even though they got off to a slow start, they just haven't played enough games to kind of really show you where they'll stand. The Ducks also have been surprising. I think they've gotten off to a slow start, but since then have picked it up a little bit. So they're right there too. So I think there could be 3 teams kind of vying for that 4th spot in the Ducks, Wild, and the Coyotes, versus kind of just maybe 1 or 2 as we thought. So it's definitely turning out to be more interesting of a race. Kings and Sharks there sitting at the bottom. I don't really seeing that change anytime soon. For me, as long as the Kings beat the Sharks and the Ducks, I'm happy with that. So hopefully that continues.
There you go.
But yeah, that would be, so I would say biggest surprise, the Coyotes, biggest disappointment so far, the Wild. I still think the Wild are going to grab that 4th spot in the end. Just considering the games played, I still think the Wild are a better team, especially when you look at point differential. The Wild currently are neutral. The Coyotes are right there at -2. So we'll see what happens, but that would be my pick.
I like that. James, you had a question, man.
Yeah, Tyler already kind of answered it. So this is for Alex and you. So as it stands now, after 15 or so games of the season, who do you think will take that 4th spot in the West?
Go ahead, Alex.
I really want it to be the Kings, but I've lost a lot of faith in them. Not going to lie to you. I don't like to do this, but I'm going to agree with Tyler. I think the Wild are probably the 4th best team. We'll see how they bounce back with their COVID issues. They seem to be scoring enough, which is something we talked about at the beginning, when we were doing our previews. So if they continue to score enough, I think the Wild are going to take that 4th spot.
Yeah, this is tough. I'm actually gonna lean towards Arizona. I think I really like their play. To Tyler's point, I really like the way they're playing right now. They're kind of coming together as a group with all the kind of commotion that they're dealing with. They're coming together as a group, galvanizing and making things happen. But I'll say this, if your team isn't 500 at this point in point percentage, you're probably not going to make the playoffs. I think that at this point, I know it's not an end all be all. I'm not going to die on my grave for that one, but I will say that more than likely if you're not at 500 at this point in the season, you're pretty much done, because 80% of teams that are in playoffs in a normal season at American Thanksgiving generally make the playoffs. And right now we're at that point. We're at relatively that point of American Thanksgiving. And so if you're not in a playoff spot, or at least not contending for a playoff spot, yeah, you're not probably not going to make it. You had a question, James, or you're laughing. I want to know what you're laughing about.
Oh no, I don't hear American Thanksgiving often. It's just Thanksgiving.
Looking like a true Canadian.
It's not just Thanksgiving, because we probably have Canadian fans, and there's Thanksgiving in Canada. So
yeah, I've just never heard of that before in my life. So that's not.
Yeah. We gotta show some love for assuming we have Canadian fans. I don't know if we do. I hope we do. But yeah. So James, who do you think's getting that 4th spot?
I'm gonna stick with the Ducks, man. Their offense has not produced, but they're coming up. Yes. They're getting way more shots on goal, and there's no way that they can only score 1 goal off 40 shots every single night.
No.
Eventually it's going to break. Eventually the dam's going to fall. And then their defense has been pretty stellar so far. So if that defense stays where it's at and the puck starts to fall the Ducks' direction, it's going to go in more than once after 40 shots.
Yep.
And so that if that continues, I mean, have you seen that? I know AHL doesn't mean much right now, but the young guys that in
means
AHL,
a lot.
Jamie Drysdale, right? I mean, for right now in this season, this point in time,
right?
Jamie Drysdale and Trevor Zegras have been killing it.
Yeah,
like Drysdale leads like the all defenseman in points, and then Zegras has like 7 assists or something. It's been 5 games. It's crazy. I'm very excited for them to finally make it up to the NHL so I can see them play.
Yeah, I worry about the Ducks come in the next couple of years, because you guys are going to lose your high high cost veterans, and you guys are bringing in some good talent down low. I'm worried about that, especially because the Oilers are going to be in the Pacific Division next year again. And I'm pretty worried about that. But moving on to the last one of the day, 4 of us here during during our Scotia North previews all had the Canucks making the playoffs and even placing better than 4th place. Wow, they are struggling immensely. Tyler, if I had asked you what your biggest disappointment was, it'd definitely be this team. If I asked you about the North, they are just getting outscored. Elias Pettersson looks like I don't even know what I'm watching anymore. I don't know what anybody's watching right now. He just doesn't have his step. Alex, is this the end for them this season? Like, do they have a shot?
I mean, well, we're at American Thanksgiving, so no, I guess. I've done a lot of thinking about this. So as we stand right now, like Tyler mentioned, where it's Monday night. They've played 18 games. They're the team that's played the most games out of the season so far. They're still only 3 points out. You kind of have to give them a margin of like 2, let's say 2 points, just because they've played more games. So say they're 5 points out. They can make up 5 points. But the biggest problem, 2 problems. One, they are not scoring enough. They're minus 13 in goal differential, which is not good. Their leading scorer on the year is a defenseman. Quinn Hughes is a monster. He's an unbelievable player, but you never want your leading scorer to be a defenseman. I mean, that's just like hockey 101. And then number 2, their goalie play has been, I would say atrocious would be the best word. So both Thatcher Demko, great name, and Braden Holtby, who Tradon, I got to give you some props. You pretty much shit on him during our preview. I believe you were saying, I don't think, Braden Holtby has it. And they both have goals against average of 3.5 or more, roughly. And neither one of them have a 90% save percentage. That's pretty bad.
Yeah.
Like, to put it into perspective for, people that maybe don't watch hockey, anything under a 90% save percentage is like you're a backup or a rookie or just awful. That's just terrible. I do think they have a chance. They're missing Tyler Toffoli, I think, a lot. They're going to need more depth scoring. Bo Horvath has also been kind of shitty when he's been one of their better players the past couple of years. I think they still have a chance to make the playoffs. I'm very confused about what Winnipeg is doing. They're in a playoff spot right now, but they feel like a team that could kind of falter. But I give them, if it's not looking better in a week or two, I'd say it's over. But yeah, I agree. Most disappointing team in hockey so far, probably.
Yeah. Look, they have a 39% point percentage. That is, and I think you're being generous. I really think you're being generous for maybe just saying that they have a chance, because I'm going to say it right now. Canucks fans, throw in the towel. It's over. I'm going to say it. It's done. And you're just too far out. And to your point, Alex, you're right. A negative 13 goal differential is not what this team was built around. Here's my issue though. Quinn Hughes has been, he's amazing on the offensive side. He has a -12 on the season.
Yeah, that's no good.
And if you look at some of his other advanced stats, he is letting a lot of slot shots happen when he's on the ice. Clearly not playing the defensive side of the puck, or he's just playing poorly, and that's just an issue. The team defense has just been absent. Chris Tanev was a big loss. Tyler Toffoli, to your point, Alex, is a huge loss, and Elias Pettersson has just been weird, just not there. One more thing to consider for the last topic, and this one, and any division for that matter, you can't get any points playing teams outside your division. Every single game, every single time that people are that you're on the ice and you lose, you're giving up a point to a divisional rival. That's how important these games are. They've never been this big. So you can't afford to, you don't have a chance to gain some points from elsewhere. You have to, it's so much more important and much more impactful, kind of to the point of you just got to win, and they're not. And so, Alex, you had one more thing.
Yeah, I mean, so I agree with you. I think they're in a lot of trouble, but it's hard for me to kick anybody out of the playoffs. Like after watching what the Blues did 2 years ago,
True.
You win 5 in a row, something like that. They're back in the playoff spot,
That's
and to your same point, that's now taking away points from division rivals.
100%.
So I think I can see your point. I totally get it, but I think teams, if they go on any sort of run, you can go from last to first very quickly in these sort of things. Does Quinn Hughes remind you of Brett Burns a little bit? Like,
yes,
kind of a great offensive defenseman, but can be a little iffy on the back end.
Yeah,
that comp just popped into my head.
Now, I wholeheartedly agree. The only difference I would say is that Quinn Hughes is young enough that he can learn that part of the game.
Yeah,
where Brent Burns hasn't really yet, and it's done.
He's not going to.
He's not gonna. So I love that comparison though. But look, Canucks fans, I love to just be, brash, and I'm just going to be brash. I like Alex, pushing back saying, hey, we don't know. I'll be the first to admit that I'm wrong if that happens, but it's not looking too good. But hey, you got the GM and the coach got a vote of confidence from the ownership. Last game you did dominate the Toronto Maple Leafs. So I'll give you that. I'll give you that. Or not the Toronto Maple Leafs. You dominated Calgary, and I'll give you that. So maybe this is a turnaround. But hey, that's all I have for hockey. Lots of discussion, but hey, this is going to be a fun week. Here we go.
Tradon, great segment once again. I genuinely learned so much from this because hockey and baseball, like the two sports I don't really know all that much about. So literally, like I enjoy listening to this stuff because I learned so much. And also your power rankings. If you guys haven't checked it out yet, TLDRpodcast.net. Tradon's power rankings are legit. Him and Alex both make great power rankings, so go ahead and check those out.